Hey guys, welcome back to the Gun Deity channel. This time we're gonna test cheapest Glock clone you can get. This is the Palmetto State Armory Dagger. What's a Glock clone? You can't do Glock things with it. Let's go ahead and mag dump this thing.
They call me a god. 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 Let's go.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Gun Deity channel. This is the Palmetto State Armory Dagger, full size, as you saw in the intro. It does run a 17 round magazine. They are running PMags, so I figured they're going to run the best with what they can with, but we're going to test it with Glock OEMs, and we're going to test it with a knockoff and see what happens. I wanted to test it through a couple different things besides just magazines. We're also going to test ammo too. Granted, I don't have a whole lot of options today, but I do have some rounds that are guaranteed to screw up a gun that's cheaply made. So let's see what it does to this dagger. Alright, so I'm about 15 to 20 yards away from my steel target right here, and I'm hitting pretty darn close to where I'm aiming. These suppressor height sights are actually pretty spot on. They are a Mariglow front sight and blacked out rear U-notch. I'll show you up close a little bit in just a second, but we're going to keep putting some rounds on target and see how she does. I'm going to try to keep my hand away from that slide release to see if I can keep it from closing the slide. Oh well, once you get into a rhythm of missing, it's really hard to get back at it. Alright, so she did slide lock open. So the good thing is it's hitting pretty darn close to where the sights are aiming. There was a few misses there, as you guys heard, but that's mainly because once you get in that mindset, it's hard to get back out of it. Everyone that goes to the range knows that. So we're going to try it out with a few different types of ammo and see what she does. Alright, so we know that it functions pretty well. It was feeding all 17 rounds that I put through it just fine. So this time we're going to run a couple rounds that usually jam up some cheaper guns. First is going to be Blazer aluminum. These are 115 grain full metal jackets. They are a copper jacketed bullet, so should be pretty decent. Next one is the gun that the bullet that pretty much jams all the time in my Peacock pistol, which is a Palmetto State lower. Second round we're going to try is 115 grain steel case Wolf ammunition. Now this is a brass jacketed bullet, and it is a very hard primer in these guys. So if this gun functions through all these, it's going to function pretty much through any full metal jackets that you can put through it. So let's go ahead and try this out and go from there. Alright, so first up is going to be the Blazer 115 grain. We're going to put 5 rounds of that through, and then we'll put 5 rounds of the Wolf 115 grain through it. If it feeds all these, you can pretty much guarantee it's going to feed almost any full metal jacket that you can put through it. Alright, so first up, 5 rounds of aluminum cased. Alright, I believe that was all 5 rounds of the aluminum case. Now we're going to go to the steel case ammunition. This is where malfunctions are probably going to occur, if they're going to occur at all. I ain't the type to give up. If I do something, then I do it till I get what I want. I turn a business out of nothing into something I love. I got a poker face, but honestly, I'm not one to blow. I flip a switch, never miss, man, I always stay up. Don't let them see you. Okay, so I fed all 5 of those. All 5 of the aluminum, all 5 of the steel, and it slide locked open. So I will say that those Wolves seem a little hotter than the Blazer. I could hear a little bit more, and I could feel a little bit more in the hand. So I will say the Wolf's a little bit spicier. We're going to try something else. Okay, so where a lot of guns malfunction is in defensive rounds. So this is planning on being my bedside table gun, so I want to make sure that it's going to function properly. So we're going to test it with a couple different hollow points that I have, or defensive rounds I have, and go from there. First up is going to be just standard 124 grain jacketed hollow point from Hornady. These are just a standard hollow point. There's nothing crazy about it. Let's see if I can get in the light there. Yeah, nothing crazy about it. It does have a little bit more of a cone shape, so it should feed pretty well. The next one I'm going to test it with is something bizarre, and if there's going to be malfunctions, it might be with this one. And that's the Fort Scott tumble rounds. I do not remember what the grainage of these guys were, but it's a very pointed round. So if there's going to be a malfunction, it's probably going to be with this. Although I can't see it being a feeding issue, except for maybe a magazine issue. So we're going to go ahead and put some rounds through. I'm going to do 3 rounds of each and see if it functions. If it can cycle all 3 rounds, it's going to cycle a full magazine. So let's go with 3 rounds of each and go from there. All right, guys. So we saw it fed all the full metal jackets. We're going to do hollow points and defensive rounds this time. First 3 rounds are the Hornady. Next 3 rounds are the Fort Scotts. Now, I will say the only reason I'm doing 3 and 3 instead of 5 and 5 is hollow points and defensive rounds are expensive, especially those Fort Scotts. So I don't want to waste a ton of ammo just shooting onto steel targets. So we're going to shoot 3 of each. 3 should tell us if it's going to feed it or not. First one, of course, will always rack in just fine. The next 2 depends on its ability to feed that cone shape. So we're going to go ahead and put 3 rounds of the Hornady on here, and then we're going to do 3 rounds of Fort Scott. Alright, so that's the 3 rounds of the Hornady. It did feed the Fort Scott just fine, so we're going to go ahead and shoot the 3 rounds of the Fort Scott. Alright, well, I will say I was a little nervous shooting the steel with those Fort Scotts because I don't know what they'll do. I did hit it one time and it didn't bounce back, but I think being a little nervous made me miss those other 2 shots. But it fed all 6 of those rounds just fine. So I think you're going to be okay shooting any kind of defensive loads through this. Alright, so we saw that it could feed all the different types of full metal jackets. It could feed all the different, the 2 different types of defensive loads that I have. I'm going to try different magazines. Now, it runs just fine with the PMags, but it's supposed to be a Glock clone, so it should run perfectly great with a Glock OEM. This one, we're going to run the 19X mags, mainly because it just looks really sharp inside that gun. I did put 5 rounds of the Blazer aluminum in it, just to see if it functions. If it functions well, then with the 5 rounds, we know it's going to function just fine with all 19. So there's no reason to shoot 19 rounds just to test it. Alright, first round went in just fine, so we're going to test it out, and we're going to shoot all 5 rounds, hopefully, on this target. And of course I have to have a stray going out there. Did feed all 5 rounds, of course, flawlessly, and locked open flawlessly. So, as a Glock clone, it passes. Alright, as a Glock clone, it should be able to run all the aftermarket mags too. So I grabbed one of the most popular aftermarket mags out there, ETS Group. Now this is a 33 round fun stick. Granted, I didn't want to put that many rounds in here. So we put 5 rounds in this guy, see if it's going to function, and go from there. It's going to look kind of ridiculous out of this little gun. But let's put 5 rounds on target and see what she looks like. Alright, so it did feed the first round just fine. Let's get these 5 rounds out there and see what happens.
Don't let them guide your life towards regret. I'll fight for what I love with every breath. My past is filled with things I won't forget.
Alright, so it fed all 5 rounds just fine. And the mag drops free just fine. So, as a Glock clone, it pretty well succeeds. So, you know what? What we need to do, we need to just mag dump this thing. Because no Glock clone is correct without a mag dump. Alright guys, sorry if the audio sounds weird. I did have to change cameras because, well, my camera battery died. So, that's what you get for being unprepared. But, let's get back to the review. What's a Glock clone? You can't do Glock things with it. Let's go ahead and mag dump this thing. Alright, as you can see, she runs pretty darn well. So as you guys saw, this does do Glock things, so that's a plus. And, you know, it's a pretty decent gun, especially for the price. So you guys should definitely check it out. Go on to Palmetto State Armory's website. I cannot link it into the description because of YouTube rules, but definitely check them out. See if Palmetto State Armory is right for you. And I will say, for the price, it's the best clone out there. So definitely check it out. And if you guys like this video, go ahead and hit a like in the like button down there. Comment in the comment section and subscribe. I'll see you for the next one.
I got a God complex. Haters love to hate, but I never feel pressed. Got a lot on my plate, but I never get stressed. I'll take all the pressure like I'm acing this test. And like a damn Freemason, I'll run this nation.
They call me a gun.